So we're going to be able to tweak how fast the rocket's going to be. So if it's like 20, it's too fast. You got a question?
Yes, the methods it will be from public to protected or must be public every time?
When it's private, it doesn't show in the result.
So you can like do private, like speed, for example. So what public does is it allows you to be shown in the editor and sort of access all the scripts and stuff. Private kind of holds it back. So for example, if I set up private flow of maximum enemies. So for example, okay, so what I could do is I could pass to my designer. He can play around with speed, but I don't want him to be able to access maximum enemies instead of to be like 2 billion because then it'll break like the iPad, for example. So that way I can like hide the important stuff so they don't play around with it, but only expose what I want them to actually tweak and sort of manage and stuff like that. So yeah, that's proven very useful because what designers tend to do is they tend to max out as many things as they can create. Like create 2 billion rockets every time you hit spacebar. On an iPhone 4, it does not like it. So yeah, you can set them as public or private. You can set them as static as well if you want it to be accessed from other sources. Protected?
Yes.
Can the variable be protected?
Yes.
Yes.
This is C#, it can be anything.
Yes. Protected in what way? Protected from...
Protected float speed, that's exactly.
What's in access level?
Access level, yeah.
Right, so like...
Yeah.
Yes.
That's bullshit. I mean, not here. I mean, if you're writing the engine itself, yeah, it would be inherited.
Okay.
It's very rare.
Okay. Yes, cool, sweet. So what we can do is an update. We're going to basically change the rocket's velocity. So we need to add a ridge body to our rocket. So we could either set our rocket to, for example, increase speed, increase its position over time. But I want it to move by force. So I want basically the rocket to be pushed up by force. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Unity. As we want to tweak the rocket's physics, you'll notice our rocket doesn't actually have a physics property onto it. So we need to go to our rocket, we need to go to Add Component, Physics 2D, Rigid Body 2D. So we need to say to our rocket, be affected by physics. However, what do we need to change?
-1.
Oh yeah. Wait, -1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we can do that. Yeah, -1.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was originally talking about is if you left your rocket at 1 and then you spawned the rocket. So for example, I've just created my rocket.
Hold down.
Goodbye, yeah. So that's not good at all. So what you could either do is you could either set gravity of your rocket to be 0 and then apply force when it's created. Or, yes, you could say, actually, yeah, let's just do -1. Because what happens to the rocket when created, then the gravity will go up, so you're firing the rocket upwards. Kick ass. So now, last rocket, look at that go. Yeah, so then we can fly rockets, cool. So we now have a rocket, we now have a rigid body onto it. I'm not going to bother with carrying on the script, so I don't really have time. But let's just set the gravity scale to be -1, so it's applying it upwards. So it's going to send a rocket. So those of you following along, you should have something that looks like this. Okay. Rocket is tiny, rocket is too small. So what we need to do is we need to resize the rocket. So make sure that your rocket is sort of next to your ship. And then resize the rocket. So grab the rocket and then resize it so it kind of looks like it's going to be about, the same size as the rocket. Lots of sound effects. Cool. So we have our rocket. So we have our rocket and we have a rocket. It's all ready. It's then going to fly. Awesome. So what we could do is I could, for example, rather than creating each rocket by code, I could hit Command D and then duplicate many, many rockets, right? And then that's going to be like... However, that's lazy. That's a really bad way of doing things. Instead, what I want to do is I want to say to this rocket, because this rocket is sitting on my canvas, it's sitting on my scene, it's sitting there, that's where it exists. I'm going to go the other way. So previously, we were taking objects from here and put them in here. I'm going to take an object from here and put it here. people will be like, whoa, what? This is mad. And that's called making a prefab. This is what I mean by master object. So somewhere in the Mario code base in the engine, there's going to be like a coin sitting there that they duplicate a billion times. Or like a goblin they duplicate a billion times, or a bullet or something like that. Not in Mario, but yeah, we'll get to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this rocket and all of its information. So our rocket's quite complex. It's got like spirometer, animator, rocket behavior, physics and stuff like that. So we're going to save our rocket and we're going to turn our rocket into a prefab. And this is quite easy to do. So we're going to go to our assets folder, where you can notice that we've got several things. We're going to create a new folder. This folder is going to be called prefabs. So prefab is short for prefabrication. So it's basically kind of like pre-made up data. It's like a soldier. It's like a building that you've already made all the things about it. You're just going to duplicate it many, many times, and you can do that by code. You're kind of like loading it into the game, adding it to the scene. So who can guess how you take this rocket and then make it a prefab in your project folder? Drag and drop. How did you guess? So we take the rocket. Really, really easy. Take the rocket. Select. Okay, select the rocket. Hold it. Pull it over. Let go. What you'll notice inside the prefabs folder. Oh shit. And if you select that rocket, notice that I'm not selecting anything, I'm selecting the rocket in my project folder, and the rocket has all the information. So the rocket has all the information that I need. This is a rocket. This is now a saved file in my project folder. And what I can do with saved files is I can call on them by code and basically create them into my C. So they're really, really useful. So make sure that you definitely have, like, in your prefabs folder, a rocket with a blue square. Okay, make sure you have that, because I'm going to do something very dangerous. I'm going to go to my rocket, and I'm going to delete it. I did that once without saving the prefab, and I was like, thank God undo exists. Delete it. So my scene has no rockets whatsoever. But what you'll notice is that in my prefabs folder, I have a rocket now saved as a little project folder, as a little item, or like a texture, or like something. It's like a Unity prefab that I can navigate by code, by one line of code, which is pretty cool. Cool. Everyone okay with that? Oh yeah. Okay. So now that we have this, we need to write the code to generate it. We have this saved. We have our spaceship. Our spaceship is little blasters that are going to fire the rockets. Now we need to write a couple of lines of code to say every time we hit spacebar, fire the rockets. Really, really simple. So, go to your spaceship control script. So go to this script that basically was on our spaceship, that basically has all these things here. You notice here we have the three variables that we set up earlier on. One of which is being the rocket we're going to spawn. Another one going to be one spawn point. The other one's going to be a second spawn point. So guess what those spawn points are going to be? Blasters. Aha, yeah. So it's all making sense now, slowly-ish. Cool. So we've got rocket, spawn point 1, spawn point 2. So we need to write some input code that basically detects when we hit spacebar. So where would be a good idea to write this? I'll give you a hint. The update. That's what it's going to be.
When we do physics and forces, we use
yeah. So if you, so I'm using update currently for but if you use fixed update, it basically has a fixed loop. Fixed update is better for if for example, I was in my update function like, so say like I was doing this, and I was saying like every frame like velocity is like, I don't know, so that's just like nonsense, right? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. That makes no sense. But basically, if I was doing that, you should do that in fixed update, because that's not a fixed loop. Update is more like frame dependent. So yeah, like directly modifying physics and stuff like that in fixed update. I know I have done in the update there, I've moved it to there, I should change that, but apply force is a custom function, and then technically we are, so yeah, that's very naughty of me. I should have really just changed it to fixed update. But okay, I'll do that now, just to make you happy.
Yeah, no.
Problem solved. Cool. Okay. So nearly there. So we have this gap here. So inside fixed update or update, we're basically going to detect and we push a key. So what we could do is we could go to that big input menu with axes and like all the different inputs and adding your input and stuff. But what that usually lets you do is you can either set that key up, or you can actually just reference the key on the keyboard directly by writing, rather than horizontal or jump or file one or whatever, you can actually write if input.getKey spacebar, control, hashtag, whatever, print screen, I don't know, whatever floats your phone. So what you can do is you can do if input.getKey down. Then inside here you can do a string group. So I'm going to say space. If you get the key down for space, you could change this. So you could change this to like F for fire. You could change this to like escape. You could change this to like control. You could change this to like command, shift, whatever it is. Well, I'm going to do space because the space bar is a big button for action and stuff. So yeah. So we're going to say if we hit space bar, we're going to run another function. This function is going to be called fire. Rockets. Cool. So yeah, fire rocket. So I'll talk about in a second, like at the end. So we won't get around to finishing it, but like I'll just read the finished version. I'll talk about why I'm basically using this out to separate functions. It's because of multiple like inputs. I'll talk about it next one. So we've got the function of fire the rocket. So what we want to do is outside the update loop, we want to create that custom function. So fire. So yes, we're running this custom function. So if you used Unity before, how do you create an object from code? Right, you said it exactly the same time that the Wi-Fi thing popped up. Yeah, instantiate. What do you need for instantiate? Game object. And position. And rotation, yeah. So some guy, some smart mouth 14-year-old kid was like, you don't need the rotation. So not in that voice, but he was like, you don't need rotation to create an object. That's stupid. Why would you need that? Give me an example. Like, you're stupid. And basically, I said, okay, so you think you play Time Crisis, and you move around the corner, and the enemy has been spawned at the location behind the target, behind the defense, positioned it there, but its rotation is set to 0, 0, 0, which is basically facing the other wall. It's going to completely ruin your immersion. So obviously, when you spawn the character, you want to spawn the character at a location facing a certain direction. I'll give an example of these rockets. So for example, if the rocket's blasters were slightly turned, we'd spawn the rockets like that. It could spawn the rockets so they went into our ship and then we died, right? If we had like more code and stuff. So basically, you need to go for position, rotation, and you need to have your like object you're creating as well. He was very quiet. He was already in front of all his friends as well. So that's fine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to write instantiate, which is just a method of creating an object. Instantiate. Instantiate, and we need 3 objects. Now, if you remember correctly, we have the variables up here. We have the public variables which our designers can then create. So we're going to say instantiate rocket prefab, because it always goes what you're creating. Are you creating a bullet or an enemy or a goblin or an orc or whatever? Next one is going to be where you're creating at. So in this case, rocket spawn.1 dot position. And then the last one, the last piece of the puzzle, is going to be last piece of the puzzle is then rotation. So rocket spawn.1 rotation. So some people point out to me, like, they say, this makes no sense, what are you doing, Andy? Why have you referenced, for example, a game object here, but transform here? And the answer is very simple. It's because the game object gets the whole package. So, for example, we have that line of code. I'm just going to scroll it very quickly, so sorry if you're writing it down. So we have here, game objects. That gets the whole package. It basically gets all the different things about the rocket. So when we bring our rocket in, we want the animation to be on it. We want its audio to be on it. We want its script to be on it. We basically want the whole game object. So you basically get the whole thing. Transform, instead, doesn't care about the audio. It doesn't care about anything. It only cares about the position, rotation, and scale. So for example, when we're spawning a rocket, we're pulling in the whole rocket, so we want to bring the whole rocket over. When we position it, we don't care about like what the spawn points look like. We just care about where they are. So we're just doing transform. And then down here we're saying what we're doing about transform, so we're getting position. And then as you're following along, I'm super lazy, so I'm just going to select the first line and I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to say, change it to spawn point 2, and change it to spawn point 2. Oh, and I spelled it wrong, I put socket. Yeah. Cool. So now that we have that, we have to do 3 more things, and then we can play our game and test it out. Everyone okay with that so far? I know it's near the end of the day, or you all want to come down to the Red Bull coffee and biscuits, right? Some people are like still wide-eyed, some people are like giddy. Cool. So now that we have that code saved, go back in. Go to our ship, because we just modified the ship script. And you'll notice here we have 3 slots. So rather than it being like a float or a string or an animation code or a color, we basically change the values. We now drag and drop what we want to reference. So we drag and drop what we want to create. We want to drag and drop where we want to create it at. So this is really good for designers because they can, for example, drag and drop a rocket, see what it looks like to sort of rockets. Drag and drop Flappy Bird, see what it looks like to sort of Flash Birds. Drag and drop something else, see what it looks like to sort of that. So now, what we can do is we can then say, we're going to drag and drop a rocket into the slot. So you'll notice that we'll just drag and drop a rocket to the safe out. Also, it's going to ask for 2 positions. So I'm going to drag and drop one potato cluster, the other one. So we have it there, potato clusters and stuff. And then now, if it all works, so now what you should do is you should be able to create the rocket, and because the gravity's got scale of -1, as it creates it, it's basically lots of rockets. Another fun thing I like to do is currently we're using input.getKey down. So what that's doing is it's basically saying as the key goes down, then create it. You could, for example, do getKey up. Get key up. So getKey up is a really good example of like angry bird. So you do getKey down to have the bird where your finger is, get the key up to like release the bird. You can also do, so I like doing this, getKey, which means as the button is held. So that looks really cool. So basically every single frame is going to create 2 rockets, and then they're going to create them because they're also moving through the color tweet. It actually looks like another fun thing you can do is you can modify the master object, and it basically applies that data to all the mini objects. So if I said to the master object, those rockets are too small, okay, let's make them 10 times bigger. Because all we're doing is we're just going to the master, and we're saying to the master, yeah, you're too small. Okay, let's set those master rockets. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So we have the rockets. Who's got like 1 billion rockets spawning? Yeah. Okay, get key down. Get key is really stupid. Right, okay, cool. So we got some rockets. So we've got like, what, 22 minutes left. So in 22 minutes, we're going to get as much done as we possibly can. You're smiling like, you know. So what I've actually got is I've actually got this whole like workshop, which is normally like 8 hours long, so it's like 10 minutes really long. All recorded. So if you do want to like go in at a certain point and say, oh, okay, let's jump to like near the end, let's see your input into the audio, or let's see how we did this particular thing. I can then share the video with you, and then you can watch me just give all the same terrible jokes again, like probably worse jokes. They sort of get worse. They get a bit easier over time when my boss isn't watching. So yeah, for example, I can send you that, or what I'll actually do is I'll have to go to the finished version, to Dropbox, at the very end, put the link up so you can actually see where we are, can see where the finished version is, and then you can then work in that direction, or you can change it and make it so you spawn Flappy Birds or have a flamethrower, yeah, whatever. So yeah, I'll do that. So it's not like it's finished. It'd be quite cool if you guys like took it different directions. Like someone actually took it. 2 weeks later, he sent me an email saying, "Oh, I just made a multiplayer version of it." And I went online, picked my spaceship, and then flew around like in this like galaxy, blowing up other like guys' spaceships and stuff. And I was like, "Pretty proud! Like, this is amazing! Like, it's really cool." Wow. Cool. Okay, so we have our rocket. So what we now need to do is we need to make some asteroid targets. We're going to make some asteroid targets in the same way that we basically always make sprites. When we get our sprite sheet of asteroids, we're going to set it to multiple, we're going to cut them out, we're going to drag and drop them onto our scene, and we're going to add physics to them. Easy. So I'm going to do this on screen. If you're like a super genius and you're like, yeah, I've got this whole sprite, multiple, all that nonsense, you can go ahead and just shoot through it. But I'm going to talk through it as I'm doing it. You kind of need a recap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to sprites. I've got some asteroids because there's not much point in having some rockets and their targets. The asteroids do look like burnt pizza, I am aware. It's like if I can do pizza, that's what it is. Okay? So I've got my asteroids. Currently they're just a single sprite. And if I drag my asteroids into the scene, this is what they'll look like. Okay, that's pretty useless. That's like 3 different asteroids in the scene. So I'm going to get rid of that. Well, what I do want to do is I want to go to my asteroid spreadsheet, change it from single to multiple, because I've got multiple asteroids on the spreadsheet. Right. And the next one to do is open up my spread. So, pop quiz, what would be the best one? Automatic or grid? Whoa, okay, why did you say grid? Okay, let's play along with this. Okay, so grids. Okay, let's set them to be like, how big is my pitch? Okay, it's 64 pixels wide, right? So, okay, 64 by 64. Okay, that's 2. Let's try 30 by 64. Basically, my asteroids are always going to be cut up. Actually, in fact, for this spreadsheet, automatic is better. Because what it's going to do is it's going to work around, it's going to find the gap between the sprites. It's basically saying that's an asteroid, that's an asteroid, that's an asteroid. That's cool. And now we can click on apply. So yeah, I've just automatically my asteroids. Click apply. And what you'll notice is just like our spaceships, I've now got 3 completely different asteroids. We've got a big one, a medium one, and a big one. The asteroids. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have the asteroids, I'm going to drag and drop them into my scene. So I'm going to position them like basically somewhere above. If I now sort of look at my game, my asteroids, they're like little popcorn meatballs or something. They're very, very small, so I now need to make them bigger. So one cool thing that you can do with the 2D is you can basically select multiple like sprites. So you can select like one sprite, and you can select multiple sprites, and you can change all their sizes at the same time. It's just basically scale the whole thing up. So what I can do is I can then say, oh yeah, big asteroids. Yeah, so I've now got some big asteroids. You guys following along? Have you already made like a game and shaped it, right? Okay, so I've got some big asteroids. So this is what's going to happen if I shoot them. Okay, so what I need to do now is I need to put a collider on my rockets. So yeah, I can see how this is getting like quite like, whoa. So I'll do the collider bit, and then and then eventually you have the rockets basically hitting the asteroids and pushing them away. Then I'll show you the finished version and show you the code where you actually detect the places. So I want to talk about that tomorrow. Cool. So the rockets, they're firing. So next we need to add colliders. So I'm going to do a collider with the rocket with the asteroids first. So let's do it with this one. So what I need to do is I need to add something onto the rocket, the asteroid, that basically says when something hits it, either do something or block it, so you have to make a collider. And you can do this in several different ways. The first way is to basically select your asteroid, so in this case this shape, add a component. What you'll notice is in the physics 2D disk, you've basically got the rigid body, circle, box, edge, polygon. And you use these different colliders depending on sort of what type of game, what type of object you use. So let's start with circle collider. So circle collider is pretty self-explanatory. It just like makes a circle. It's useful for like wheels, meatballs, soccer balls, footballs, balls in general. So it's okay for that sort of stuff. But it's not really okay for this asteroid. This asteroid has got lots of different edges around it. So for example, if I look at that. Cool. So basically, you notice that there's actually a gap around here. So when my rocket comes to here, it's a collision. So that's a collision. It's not going to be too accurate. So I need a different type of collider. So this isn't really sort of that suited. So I'm going to remove my circle collider, and I'm going to add a new type of collider. So I'm going to add a box collider instead. So what you notice with box colliders, it's okay if you have like a wall or a box or a rake or like a house or something. It's just got the green edge around the outside edge. So it's useful for if you're having like a box or a very sturdy sort of type of shape. But it's pretty useless in this example. So what I'm going to instead do is I'm going to show two which are very, very similar. Edge collider with polygon collider. You can take a guess what they do.
Shift the collider around the
You're the other way around. So the polygon collider does that. So say like I've got this shape here. This isn't a naturally circle shape, or this isn't a naturally square shape. What you can do instead is you can instead take the asteroid, add a component, physics 2D, and then what you can do is you can then use a polygon collider. Okay, that's looking okay. It looks a bit nicer. What it does is it gets the rough shape, and it kind of like tries and makes the best fit around it. It's not always perfect. There are some imperfections. I mean, it's going to be difficult for our 2D developers to test out every single possible shape all the time on the internet and make. So it's too long. So what they did is they kind of made a best fit. So it kind of like says, okay, I'll try and generate it around there. It's not entirely perfect. So what the 2D developers did is they thought, okay, so if we can't make something that's entirely perfect, let's generate a rough edge, and let's be able to allow people to then edit it and tweak it. So what I can do is I can hold Shift. Okay, let me just. Okay, so what I can do is I can hold Shift, and I can actually edit the points that it's generated. So holding Shift, I can then pull out the points, and move it around the shapes. Okay, cool. So I made a rough shape like this. Now the downside of this is that I'm just editing existing points. So if it doesn't generate a perfect shape, then obviously it's going to be possible. So what you can also do is, as well as holding Shift to edit existing points, you can actually add points onto it. So let's say that our asteroid, for example, let's say our asteroid wants to have a crown. So our asteroid like here, I'm going to position it like so. Position like so. Okay, so say like my position like that. So maybe I want to have a bit more of a curve here. So if you hold Shift, what it does is it snaps onto different points. But if I move my cursor somewhere in the middle of the line, I can actually add extra points. It's a little bit fiddly on the trackpad. Okay. So what you can actually do is you can actually add existing points here. You can then add points to ground. This is useful if you want to like build up more curve, build more edge ground to your object. I'm aware I've kind of butchered this a little bit, so I'm going to go back. So you can add those extra points. So holding shift adds and edits existing points. You hold command. What command does is it will go red. So holding shift to make it go green. Holding command will go red. So what you can do is you can actually pull back. And you can actually delete points. You can say, I don't like that bit. I don't like that bit. And it will then generate the polygon collider based on your asteroid, like that. So yeah, it will basically generate it based on the asteroid like that. So you can then add, edit, and remove different points. Cool. I'm aware of learning today, and I can see everyone's very tired. Everyone's on a red ball crash this year. I'll talk about the other one. So I'll remove polygon collider, and I'll go physics 2D. And what you'll notice, the polygon collider works from like making a complex shape, whereas the edge collider makes a simple line and then you edit it. So around the edge collider, it just makes a simple line, like so, and then you can then add existing points. So I can make the mountain simulator game, or like rock simulator or something like that. So basically I can then have a mountain ridge, or basically kind of go from the ground up. So if you like clicking, do the really complex one, and generate the whole sort of like shape. If you like starting from the ground up like this, you can go from the other way. So yeah, that's how you sort of like create items. I've pretty much run out of time. I'm laying regular. Yeah, playing Red Bull. So I've pretty much run out of time, so I'll sort of finish up now. I think at 5 o'clock we're doing some Q&A with some. Sure, I'll get told off or something. Yeah, cool. So what I'll do tomorrow there's like, if you have read up what we talk about stuff. Basically in the morning from 9 until 10, so like super early time. We're going to talk about 2D, but like we've already covered most of 2D and Wi-Fi. So probably what I'll talk about is more advanced methods of 2D. So now that we have these colliders, how do we make them, for example, bounce? How do we make them have friction? I'm going to have Iron Man running around, shooting missiles, talk more about like specific, really in-depth 2D stuff. So this is just a basic intro, and I'll talk more on that. I'll probably show like a teddy bear running around and how you do the whole animation system with a teddy bear and stuff like that. Do another talk on the UI system. So with Brad's UI system, unless you have health bars and 3D UI like dead space and stuff, which is cool. And another one about advanced rendering, so like image-based lighting and like really cool, like beautiful view maps and stuff like that. So tomorrow, rather than like a follow along type thing, I know some of you have like a laptop, so it's a bit kind of like trying to follow along, but you're like, oh, I want to make this cool game, or like I'm not really following along. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be more like a presentation type thing, so you just sit there and watch, see Iron Man and a cat in London, and lots of like, teddy bears jumping and stuff like that. That's tomorrow. I'll also upload the, I think I already have it on Dropbox, but the internet's kicked me out. So yeah. So that's pretty much I've got a couple more slides. So you didn't get around to finishing it, but I can show you guys the video. So if you want to know more about script, okay, so if you want to know more about scripting reference, we have the whole script of the whole Unity on online, and also when you download the engine. So you have the script. So for example, you can type input.getTouch. So yes, that's a stupid grammar name. And there we have all the input code that you would need. So again, it has an example. So here's the input code. This is how it works and things like that. So you have all the scripting reference to look at. It's also online, but also local. It also has Boo if you're feeling very adventurous. We also have a learn section. So say like you've seen the presentation today, and you think, okay, I know pretty good about like 2D physics and stuff like that. But the animation stuff, I want to look more into that. So the way that the Learn team have basically created Learn tutorials, and I guess the internet is okay. So on the Learn team, on the Learn section, what the Learn team have done is rather than having, I'm probably sure you guys have been up with like a 7-hour tutorial you follow the whole thing just for like a little 5-minute bit at the end, and then you rinse out the same. So they always open up the tutorial with like an hour and thing.
So hey guys, I've done some stuff. Yeah, it's in Unity.
What the Learn team have done is they've actually split it up into little bite-sized chunks. So for example, the animator component would basically be everything I said that the animator controls all the different animations. So you can be like, yeah, I don't need that one, I don't need that one, but I do need that one. You can just jump into that one and basically carry on from there. So it's rather than like, you know, forcing you to sit down with a 3-hour video, watching 3 hours for like 5 minutes of information. You can just, for example, you can just jump into like characters of player and then basically follow that. You can jump into avatar masks and stuff like that. So that's how the Learn team have kind of made their tutorials to be like you can jump in. These are the like guides tutorials. So for example, how to make lasers in Unity using lights, teleportation grenades and stuff like that. They have also got followed on projects. So if you do prefer the style where you like A to B to C to D to E, they basically have a tutorial on how to make a simple stealth game. And you run around and how to do like enemy AI and stuff like that. So you actually have a full game at the end of that. Or a rollerball project for mobile, or a spaceship shooter, which has got 4K graphics, and this. And they're actually making more. So yeah, you have the Learn section. Okay, we'll go some slides. Okay, yes, it's still already talked about that. The forums as well. So for example, if you've got forums, you could then post, for example, when you're scripting, here's my code, why does it not work? Or, I don't know, why don't you talk about this? And this will have people, everyone from like Rodeo, EA, and Blizzard, and Activision, and stuff like that, basically down to like hobbyists, down to our developers, down to people who work for Unity, all basically helping you, basically talking about like, I remember one was like, let's make an MMO, and then people were like actually signing little jobs, like, oh, what's the network and stuff. So people were trying to make an MMO like through a forum. So yeah, I remember everyone was making Flappy Bird codes. We also get Unity answers. So the forums more like a discussion, like, I want to make a shooting game, what would be the best practices? Has anyone got any advice or examples? The answers is more like, how do I do this? Or, the problem with joining a multiplayer game. Then what people do is they then answer, like with a full answer. And then some community will then like monitor this and then approve it if it's actually good and valuable sense. So it'll be blue if it's like not being confirmed, red if there's no answers, or green if some community is like, so character animation loop not smooth, someone's made a reply, and then Unity have checked that, some community said, oh yeah, actually this is a good answer, this is actually true, so they'll confirm it, so you can actually see if the answers are actually useful or not. It's also got 1.4 thousand views, well 1,400 views. We've actually hired loads of people on here who are like the highest rated, like basically half the backs. We just said, you guys basically like help us, so we will hire you and give you loads of money. We also use Fire, which I'll talk about tomorrow, like image-based lighting and rendering and stuff like that. I have a massive cursor as well. Cool, and that's basically the end of it. Probably better for me talking in like what? 6 hours? Which is a long time to be in a very hot and stuffy room. So yeah, we didn't get to the end, but I will show you videos. I'll upload the finished version like online. I'll do it now, we're running out of time. Like tonight, I'll share it tomorrow. That's it, basically. Send me an email anytime, I'll respond if you're making a cool game. Or don't send me Flappy Bird clones. Because I play way too many Flappy Bird clones. Unless they do something different. Like someone made one where you fly a pipe through birds. Someone made one which was first person, like 3D on a Flappy Bird. I like those ones, but if you just make another Flappy Bird, or someone made a Flappy Turd. I don't want to play those. I want to play cool badass games. So yeah, send me cool stuff we're working on. Anything from like a Stickman project to like a type of like anything. Also Twitter, I just write it online. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know a lot of people are like, I need Red Bull or coffee, stuff. Yeah, so thank you. I know it's been a long day, it's been very hot, it's very sweaty, and some people were kind of like having a caffeine crash, or like people are like, wow, this is cool. People are like, oh, I knew this already. So yeah, thanks for coming along. Tomorrow I'm going to be most of what I'm talking about tomorrow is completely unreleased stuff. None of you have seen it. Like that. It's taken on my website, so my boss is going to do this stuff. Yeah.